All right, good afternoon, everyone. I am Kim Paget with the Rural Community Assistance Partnership, or RCAP. There is my contact information. And RCAP is a national nonprofit that helps rural communities with community development issues, but we do tend to focus on drinking water and clean water services. Services are provided in all 50 states, the Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico. Many of RCAP services, but not all of them, are provided at no cost to the communities who qualify. Basically, if the community is rural, low income, and qualify for RD services, they tend to qualify for RCAP technical assistance. Those are our three national funding agencies. USDA, as you see, USDA Rural Development is front and center, as they are my largest funding agency, and Health and Human Services Office of Community Services. RCAP has been serving our state's most disadvantaged populations for 50 years. We provide services in these smaller communities by delivering free training and technical assistance. Our work is diverse. It is limited merely on the amount of funding that we have at the time, the number of projects that may be ahead of a project that you would have in mind, or whatever the federal focus might be at any given time. But specifically in Kentucky, here's a map that shows the projects and training activities that we did in Kentucky in year 2019. As you can see, we were from far eastern Kentucky to far western Kentucky, and very few counties were unaffected by us. Keep in mind, there are only 6 rural development specialists or technical assistance providers in Kentucky. Myself and my story, I grew up in southeastern Kentucky. The picture on the left was very familiar to me. Lots of iron, manganese in the water around us. The house that I grew up in had two salt filters so that our water was decent to wash clothes in. And our septic system, because we were lucky, we lived on about a 5-acre lot, which is unheard of in southeastern Kentucky. But it was beautiful. I had a mountain on one side to climb, and behind the house was a nice little waterway. So our septic tank that we had was naturally located between our home and the waterway. So I wonder how much it was functioning when we thought we had a wonderful thing there. When I started with RCAP, the picture on the right was one of the very first communities that they took me to train me. And I had no idea what that plastic container was in that picture. Had never seen a cistern before. We had well water. So just down the road from that house, I saw this truck, and I had to take a picture. Can you see what it says? Can you see the back? Call, and I tried to blur out the first 3 digits so that you wouldn't know what county this was in, for water. I just couldn't believe that people were actually drinking water that came out of this truck, and that's why I've been here 23 years later after I started. RCAP's focus, we do focus on drinking water, clean water, which is also called wastewater, and community development. We help communities be sustainable, and we help them develop their technical, managerial, and financial capacities to do so. We help communities finance facilities and maintain operations once those facilities have been constructed. That picture is taken in Leslie County. These are some of the technical tasks that we have helped with in the past. It does in no way list everything that we've done or could do. It's just what came to the top of my mind when I was preparing this presentation. In the top picture to the right is one of our employees. She's a licensed water operator, and she was literally in the field helping that operator. And then the picture beneath it was taken maybe 5 to 7 years ago when we were trying to help a water district locate mining adits to prove to the abandoned mine land that they had pre-law mining, so mining that happened before 1981. So that community could qualify for AML funds. As a direct result of 9/11, our drinking water and wastewater systems were required to do vulnerability assessments and emergency response plans. We can help them do those tasks. We go on site. It's not just a paper exercise. We go on tours of their facilities, their collection systems, their distribution systems, and we can sometimes see things that people don't notice because they're in that system every day. And in this particular system, we were able to point out that someone could actually walk between that fence and the water storage tank. Also here, this is a stormwater sewer. We were able to show them a hazard, and we tried to fix it a little bit by putting the big rock there. And in the picture to the right, I can actually climb, or crawl, not climb, crawl beneath that fence. So these are just little things that we would point out. We can also do energy audits and water audits. In this particular case, we did an energy audit in Livingston on the left. The City of Livingston's wastewater system at the time had maybe 270 customers, and we were able to save them $500 on one of their energy bills, and they had 13 for their wastewater system. $500 per month for that one electric bill. And that's a huge cost savings for a small community of 270 customers. And then the picture on the right is a different system, but that was also an energy audit that we did for Loyal. I believe we've done 20 to 24 of those. Cross-connection control. Well, a cross-connection is actually any actual or potential connection between the public water supply and a source of contamination or pollution. So if this home, this swimming pool, belonged to a home that was connected to public water, and they decide to put that water hose in their pool, and there happens to be a break down the line, the water could suck right out of that swimming pool right into the public water supply. And you may say, well, but Kim, it's disinfected. Well, what if it looked like that? It's not so much disinfected. And the little red arrow, though, would show you how the water could backflow from that swimming pool into the water supply. So we can help systems with their cross-connection control programs, which is a requirement. We can help them with their ordinances, tariffs. We can teach them about it. We can help them with their public educational activities that they're required to do by the Division of Water. We teach operators about proper sample techniques and asset management. If we were to take a look at these two assets and say, well, what's the difference between these two water storage tanks? One might say, well, one's old, one's new, one's rusted, one's been repaired. And that's what we would do. We would take the entire system, the operators, the board members, and explain to them asset management and how to take care of the important things that they have, because the assets require time, energy, and money. Now, asset management is not a new concept. It's something that operators have been doing for years. They just may have called it preventative maintenance. So we can help water systems and wastewater systems come up with preventative maintenance programs, also called asset management programs, for their utilities. The picture on the left is a picture that was just taken out of the ground less than 5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, from one of our largest water systems in the state, one of the most efficient and well-run water systems in the state. And yet when they flush, they didn't know wasn't functioning. And then the picture to the right is another one of our operators in the field talking to the manager of that district. We help with many managerial tasks. We do go in and talk about the difference between non-revenue water and water loss. We try to show a water system, if they're losing their precious 15%, which is what's allowable, that actually means that's about 2 months that they're treating water without collecting a penny of revenue. That's quite substantial. And these are examples of non-revenue water losses. Other managerial tasks. In some of our communities, we have to help with record keeping, all types of record keeping. They just simply don't have them. But I wanted to brag on Horse Cave. The picture there in the bottom is from Horse Cave Water System, and they have records, handwritten records from back from 1933. I just thought that was amazing. Some of the financial tasks that we assist with are rate studies or reviews. budgeting, billing, forecasting income, and looking at their revenue requirements and other financial reports. There are many different types of rate studies. You could have a municipal rate study that certainly has different requirements than one that would have to be filed at the Public Service Commission. We would look at alternative rate adjustments, purchase water adjustments, and non-recurring charges. Budgeting, I just showed you an example of an RD budget. Evidence of insurance. This is a timeline that it would take for a system to have an alternative rate filing approved by the Public Service Commission, up to 343 days. And that's the easy rate filing. Non-recurring charge cost justification forms, purchase water adjustments. Other services, we can help with project development. We can write grants or loans. We do have many, many partners, and if we're fortunate enough to get to work with an ad during a project or on a particular project, if it's CDBG, we would allow the ad. We would be grateful for the ad's contribution to help there, because some of our systems, they just need some assistance, need a great deal of assistance, and it takes several partners to help that community. We do have certified grant administrators on staff. We can help with environmental reviews, GIS mapping. The picture on the left is the picture. It's supposed to be an as-built, but I don't believe it was an as-built. I believe it was actually a plan sheet. So at the beginning of a project, an engineering firm would come up with plans, and then when you go into the field to construct that project, very often it's a nice little plan, but the reality in the field is something different. So it's changed a little bit. And some of our water systems do not have accurate maps. So there has been a statewide push to get GIS maps, where you can actually go out into the field and collect those assets above the ground, like you can see with the hydrant in the right picture. But most of water system assets are buried. You can't see them. So if you're not fortunate enough to go out and gather that data while an employee at that system knows where it is, then you lose them. And in this picture, the gentleman to the right was the only person in that system who knew about the part of this part of this distribution system. So we went and gathered that and submitted it to KIA so it could be in their files as well as the system's files. And that was a lost valve. They never exercised that. And there's an example of a GIS map that we've done. Other services, trainings, procuring. I probably shouldn't have put any partners on here for the trainings because I know I'll leave someone off, but we work closely with the ads and their water management councils to go on site and provide operator trainings. Some of our rural operators simply do not have the funds or the time, and we have an operator shortage as well. They can't leave their systems to go to Lexington or Louisville or Bowling Green for a training. So we will work with an ad and the Water Management Council to go to their location and provide operator training or even board training at no cost. We just have to have people show up. We provide training for the Public Service Commission, KWWOA, Kentucky Water and Wastewater Operators Association, American Water Works Association, with DOW, Division of Compliance Assistance, ASWA, UK, and on site, even one-on-one at a water system or wastewater system. We also help with solid waste projects because in addition to cleaning up the I don't want to call it trash because Melissa corrects me, but the trash streams, it helps our waterways. And water is less expensive to treat if it's clean. The cleaner it is, the fewer chemicals you have to add. So we can help with projects with solid waste. We can help them look at more efficient routes for picking up the recyclables. We can do the community education and public relations training. We go in the field. I'm the actual little mascot there. I was the one that wore that day, and it was actually fun. It was something I don't normally get to do, and those children were thrilled to see a mascot come into their classroom. And I have competitions there. Believe it or not, adults are even more competitive than children. So if you'll work with senior citizen centers, they'll be glad to help. If you can make something into a competition, you can get a lot of participation. Partners. We cannot be as successful as we are without having valuable, hardworking partners. And I've listed one of the largest ones there at the top, rural development. And Anthony, this was supposed to be a nice segue for you. But we do have a lot of RD staff on there. I also have congressional reps, because if you can get support from a congressional representative or a state representative, it helps funding for your project just go more quickly. And those were some of our successful projects. Steve asked me to particularly highlight one of our unusual projects that we've worked on, and it's Lincoln County. You can see the project area in the map to the left where I have the little red, it's outlined with red. The residents of Lincoln County are no different than most residents of rural Kentucky. They do utilize septic tanks for wastewater disposal, even though the soil quality is not favorable for septic systems. But there had been a watershed development plan or watershed plan out there. I can't remember who did it, but Division of Water, of course, financed it. And they went to the county judge and said, "Judge, we believe that we would have a high concentration of contamination from livestock. And what we've discovered, it is actually human waste." So the judge was pretty incredible. He formed a sanitation district. It was not very popular. It still isn't popular in that area of Lincoln County. But he bit the bullet, formed a sanitation district. They procured engineering services. RCAP was involved in the beginning of this project too, because they went after RD funds. So we helped them through a lot of those checklist items. And that's the funding that they received. I know that Karen Leverins from Bluegrass Ad was very instrumental in this part of the project. So phase one was the picture the map I just showed you. In phase one, there were 535 residential connections possible, 50 non-residential, 223 failing septic systems in that project, 101 raw water sewage disposals, and 2 package treatment plants, one of which was the elementary school. And they were unable to wash dishes, so they were feeding their kids on disposable plates and silverware. And that's how the creation of the Lincoln County Homeowner Assistance Program began. I was contacted by the Division of Water to see if we would be willing to administer this, and it seemed like a worthy cause, so I made it fit into our schedule, and we were able to do that at no cost to the program. All of those funds went directly into making connections from for the residences of that area into the sewer system. And it came about because the chairman of the Lincoln County Sanitation District, Mr. Bill Payne, recognized that he may have sewer lines throughout that area of the county, but if people couldn't pay to connect, it wasn't going to do any good. So I think he just pestered Division of Water enough, and they recognized that he had a valid point, and they were able to pull project funds from EPA 319, and that's how it was funded. So Division of Water is a very, very valuable partner in this, all the way from John Webb to Dale Booth and several other staff members for the 319 section. So the eligibility requirements, well, they had to provide proof of ownership within the project area. It had to be within 200 feet of the new sanitary sewer, and they could receive a 20% cost coverage not to exceed $400. No matter who they were, if they own property in that project area, they could apply and get a $400 refund on that connection. But if the household had a median household income of a certain number, they could qualify up to 90% cost coverage. And it would decommission metal tanks or plastic tanks for 100%. The process, they just needed to submit an application with proof of ownership and income. They would then get an approval letter with my signature on it. The homeowner, the property owner, was supposed to contract with a licensed plumber or begin work themselves if they thought they could do that. And then they submitted the following documentation to RCAP. And it was just a state plumbing permit, a certificate of completion from the sanitation district so that the district knew they were connected and they were a customer, and so that I knew everything was done properly there. And then an invoice from the licensed plumber that had attended one of our trainings on how to submit the paperwork. And it was a huge success. We received 359 applications, 346 were approved, and 289 were reimbursed. We were trying to figure out why not everyone applied for reimbursement, and I'm not sure. I don't know if some people believed that they might qualify for 90%, and when they found out they only qualified for 20%, maybe they didn't want to participate. And some people may have thought submitting the paperwork was too much of a burden and didn't want to do that for the $400. Once again, the project would not have happened without very valuable partners. And partners for the homeowner assistance program alone, Lincoln County Sanitation District was definitely at the top. The County Judge Executive, next in line. The Division of Water, UK, New Hope Baptist Church donated their facilities, the electric, all of that, and some of them even paid for our meals. They came and fed us while we were out there working in the field. The state plumbing inspector, the health department, and the engineering firm that was procured. This project received an award from US EPA. It was the Pisces Award, so I wanted to put that in there. And then if anyone has questions, you're welcome to ask now or whenever Steve gives us permission to answer them.